This movie very clearly has inspiration from a lot of other different movies and apologises for none of it. Very quickly, if you are new here, I like to look at those new releases that get a little bit less talked about and less reviewed, just try and find a hidden gem for myself and recommend to you guys. And this week we have got Frank and Penelope. Okay, now this movie's a little bit of a wild ride, so you may need to strap in for it. Frank and Penelope is one of those films that it's all about the journey more than anything else, so the plot can be summed up in like a couple of sentences, but so many more events take place, it's very difficult to just give you a straight through plot without spoiling major events. So first off, who are Frank and Penelope? We open the movie on Frank. He's coming home from work early with a bottle of wine and great spirits. This man knows how to treat his wife. When he rocks up to the house though, he sees his wife is cheating on him, so he just dips and leaves. What does any man do in a situation like this? Strip club. And it's here we meet Penelope. Now it's just them two in the club at the time, and Penelope comes over. She's comforting him, she's giving him a dance, doing what you would expect from her being a stripper in this situation. But it's when she goes into the back room, it's clear that she's trying to like swindle him, take his credit card, just take as much money as they can from him. And her manager slash boyfriend get into a little bit of a tussle, and Frank comes in and just gets her out of the situation, and they set off together. And that is the movie here. Because whilst he was getting the dance, they were talking about what he wants to do, and he set up the end scene from Thelma and Louise, and that's how he wants to go out. Very rational response when your wife's cheating on you, that you just Thelma and Louise it out of here. But Penelope's never seen this, so Frank just describes it as the most beautiful road, and so she goes with him. Now the movie then starts jumping around a little bit here. Once they've set off on their journey, we cut to a girl that's over on the side of the road, a car's broke down and a tow truck rolls up. And this has got to be like the seediest tow truck driver ever. He does that thing where he tries to reassure her that he's not going to attack her, but how easy it would be to attack her, because that always works well. But she gets towed back to this garage at the Quicksilver Motel. Then we do a third jump and we cut to a nurse who's reading from a journal to somebody that's in a coma. Now we don't see who's in the coma, but it is very clear that this journal is Frank's, and so you start trying to work out how the hell we got to this nurse, someone in a coma with his journal, as we start cutting back to Frank and his movies going forward. And this movie just looks downright beautiful a lot of the time. You know, this motel is just in the middle of absolutely nowhere, so they've got options here on how to film it, and it looks like they take up almost every option they could think of, because it's always interesting. You know, they could have easily had very similar shots throughout this entire movie since there's not a lot going on, but they've made a very clear effort to keep you engaged visually. It pays off so well here. Now Frank and Penelope, what do we know about them? Frank is this good guy who has never really done wrong, and that is why I think he's just at his wit's end now and leaves. Penelope though, she's got this kind of Marilyn Monroe thing. You know, that way where she just talks quite innocently and quite childlike. You know, it's endearing, and that's how she gets through the movie. We first see her, she's stripping, so I thought this was her stripper persona.
You wanna buy me this drink?
And she put this voice on and it got her more money, whatever. Turns out that's it for the entire movie.
It's a V8. Fucking big one, too.
That is just how she seems to talk. She's always got this inflection in her voice that she's surprised by everything she's saying herself.
Oh my god.
What can I say? Call me a sucker. I quite like Penelope here. Now their chemistry is fantastic for a couple that, let's say couple very loosely, but for two people that have just met in the situation they have and taken off together. I've never rooted for a couple more that didn't deserve it, if that makes sense. Like, they don't have some amazing backstory. They've just hooked up and then set off together. Individually, they're not explored much as people, but when they're together, you want them to succeed in absolutely everything, which is just a testament to their chemistry as a couple. And the Marilyn Monroe thing definitely helps a wee bit as well, just a wee bit.
Oh my god.
Now, what happens at the Quicksilver Motel? Frank and Penelope here end up at the Quicksilver Motel. So there's a girl that broke down earlier here, you've got Frank and Penelope now here, and we start meeting the staff. They're all a little bit forgettable. The main man on reception and the pickup guy, Cleve, he's the one standout. And then we introduce Cheese Sauce. Cheese sauce. He seems like the cult leader, and the movie then kind of does a 180 and just starts focusing on the concept of sinning. Like, this was going to be a journey for this couple, and now we're at this motel being run by this cult that are so focused on sinners. The movie did say it was going to be a horror. Now I get that there's the horror elements here within the motel and what happens. It's not horror. I'm not complaining about that. I had a really fun time with this movie. However, it's not quite as horror as it is more thriller adventure, I would say. And even adventure's very loose. Cheese Sauce was great though. As a cult leader, he's got that charisma about him and then clear focus on what he wants to do. And you can see immediately how he has the kind of control and power over the people within this motel. He's very suave in a way he shouldn't be. Once the shady business kicks off at the motel, this movie just really gets into gear and just takes off in a new direction. Because what was Frank and Penelope trying to make it to this most beautiful road ever now becomes an escape from the motel. All the while, the people within the motel they've got their own infighting going on as well, because the whole concept of sinning and sinners, some of them are more guilty about it than others, some believe it more than others, so there's no telling where anyone individually is going to end up. The movie doesn't try and hide the villains here, or the villains' actions or intention. Hell, at one point they actually just say it outright, and even the characters kind of in the scene, but in the background, start wondering why Cheese Sauce is being so honest. So the movie's not got a mystery element to it, more just you're rooting for our characters. But this movie, as I said, pulls from a lot of different places. It's clearly inspired by a lot. Even some of the shots, like even here, definitely Pulp Fiction vibe. And it's little things like that I just love to see. But the movie doesn't dwell on them too long that you feel like it's ripping it off. It just gives you a nice wee moment. Whilst the themes of this film can be a little bit all over the place, for Frank and Penelope, what would I be saying about it? Make time for this movie. If you enjoy a movie where you can just switch off your brain, enjoy the journey, and have a good time, this is definitely the one for you. You know, it covers a lot of different themes, so it can spread itself a little bit too thin at times, but as soon as we cut back to Frank and Penelope, their chemistry and dynamic between each other, you know, it's like the honeymoon phase of a relationship 100%. And so it's just something really endearing about that. The cult that we see, they're set up well and their own internal rules are explained. Always enjoy internal rules in a movie. And everything in here has purpose. Now, it didn't focus too much on sinning the way I thought the movie was going to, because of course with our two characters, you've got Frank who's never sinned, and you've got Penelope who is like your cliche sinner. You know, lady of the night stripper. I mean, she's only a stripper, but you get what I mean.
Oh my god.
When sinning comes in, there's a clear dynamic or message that could have been said here. Now, as much as it focuses on sinning, it doesn't feel like the movie wants to leave you with any one message. It was not a film that you're going to be pondering in a week or two's time. It's just very much a switch off, enjoy the journey, and enjoy the ride. Now look, have you seen Frank and Penelope? If you have, let me know what you thought down below. And if you haven't yet, please consider hitting subscribe. I love to see it. And thank you so much for watching.